Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Welcome to the crowded house. Tonight's version of Plain Talk. We have three guests, and we're going to jump right in. The intention is that the show is going to be an hour long. Some will stay for some will stay for more. We might run longer if the show requires. We're talking feeding the nation. Don't let how soft that topic sounds fool you. There are a lot of stuff that has to be addressed in feeding the nation. There's a reason why we don't feed ourselves. There's a lot of corruption and a lot of bacchanal, a lot of incompetence, and a lot of madness goes into us not being able to feed ourselves. I'm joined tonight by the head of the Agricultural Society, Dano Suku. Again, good evening, Dano.
Good evening.
Also joining me is Paul Daniel Nahus, former alderman of the Diego Martin Regional Corporation and a well-known, outspoken activist. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening.
And of course, deputy political leader, or one of the deputy political leaders of the Progressive Empowerment Party, Anthony Defoe. Good evening, Tony.
Good evening, Philip. Good evening, Trinidad and Tobago. Good evening to the guests.
Nice. So for those listening outside, you will see that between when I say good evening and when they responded, there was a little delay. That's how the internet works. So sometimes there's crosstalk and overtalk. This is not an interview show. This is a debate show. The idea is to get us to a place where all of us are informed, educated, and empowered. If you are uncomfortable in situations like that, log off and go and watch Netflix. To everybody else, tell your friends, Plain Talk is on. So basically, I'm going to throw all the topics out there because we're going to have to debate these issues. Trinidad and Tobago was a net food exporter up to the 1970s, and then for some reason, all of that collapsed. Dano, lead us in there. Why aren't we anymore?
Actually, Philip, good night to you and to the listeners. We actually was a net food exporter up to 2007. Right? So, I mean, even now we still do some export, but not as much as we used to do before. And it is plain, it is, I mean, I speak very frankly, bad governance policy, bad governance has brought us to where we are today.
Dano, I need to interrupt you. Net food exporter means we export more than we import. We've not been a net food exporter for more than 30 years. We've been a food exporter. So I think that you misunderstood the term. When I say net food exporter, we were exporting more than we were importing up to the 70s. That changed. Why has that changed?
Well, Philip, again, I will repeat, it's the same reason, and that is bad governance, bad government policy. Once you have money, you have oil and gas, and you have money, you believe that the rest of the world will feed you. That is what it boils down to. So as we become, over the years, as we became wealthy, as we started to accumulate and get more and more foreign exchange from our oil and gas, we forget all about food and growing our own food. We adapted ourselves to foreign food, this foreign taste, and we started to buy our food because we had money.
So, Dano, are you saying that all of the farmers quit the farm and went to work in the oil fields?
No, I am saying that what we have today is much less production because you don't no longer have those markets available. And this is why today, with what has happened with the COVID-19, it sends everybody into a tailspin. You are now, you are in a very much desperate situation now than you were over the years because you have no money and you have far less production, far less farmers involved in agriculture.
But you told me that there are 41,000 farmers. Anthony Defoe, besides being a deputy political leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party, he is the head of PEP Farms, which is a trial program that we're doing to work a sort of a cooperative to get people who cannot afford land or access land to get land and be able to grow food for shares. And you said that there were 41,000 farmers. So what are those farmers doing?
Well, 41,000 farmers, Philip, even if you have 100,000 farmers, what you look at your acreage, your production. And because you have 41,000 farmers, you have scaled down that production now. You may have 10,000 farmers, and if each of them was farming 500 acres of land, it is much more than you have 41,000 farmers on 1 acre land. So the issue, as I mentioned, it is the issue of scale down production over the years because the market access was not there. You lost market share right here in Trinidad because the supermarket chains and so on started to import much more, right? And then you no longer had the economies of scale to export to be on that competitive requirement in those open markets.
Anthony Defoe, you've been working with farmers, getting farmers on board this PEP Farms idea. What has the response been like, and what is PEP Farms, and how soon do you expect PEP Farms to be off the ground?
All right. Well, I would say that we've been talking to farmers out of Chaguanas, the central area, in up in the east, Toco, Manzanilla, Matura, Sandy Grande, as well as in the north, North Coast Road, as well as in the Santa Cruz and western area of Trinidad and Tobago, as well as down south in the Labre, well, not exactly Labre, but Point Fortin area. We've been talking to several farmers in those different constituencies and trying to acquire. Well, some of them have access to land, some don't. We've been testing several little small projects in the past. In 2018, we've been doing a little small test with 12 acres down there. The thing that we're trying to acquire right now is basically the consumption pattern of the entire country, as well as identifying all the farmers across the board in Trinidad and Tobago, as well as trying to identify all the state lands and privately owned lands that is capable of facilitating farming. With that said, again, like you said, Philip, we are testing different models, sustainable models, where farming is concerned, introducing new techniques and technologies as well. Again, we are archiving as much as the information as possible. Ms. Suku, at some point, definitely I would be sitting down with you and trying to actually bring you into the loop in a lot of different initiatives that we've been testing for the past couple of years. Because I do believe the time is now and the time is right for this to actually happen. We can't wait anymore. But with that said, again, the farmers are saying the exact same thing Ms. Suku has been saying for this live, as well as other interviews that she's had. So they are sounding exactly what is being said by Ms. Suku, and the farmers are very much, they are very worried and in fear of the environment that they are having to work in, having to operate in, because again, the state is not giving any level of support for farmers in assisting in development, as well as ensuring, the farmers themselves have a proper piece of the pie, facilitating the development and feeding the nation as a whole. But I'll leave it right here. Go ahead, Philip.
Let me bring Paul Naus in, because Paul Naus was an alderman in Diego Martin Regional Corporation. He was responsible for security. I know he deals with the farmers in the Diego Martin region. Paul, touch on what was said. What was said? Touch on it.
All right. Well, you see, I'm someone who, I would say, when I was younger, I am that old, but when I was younger, I bought 90% of my stuff was probably imported or more, right? Because that's what the groceries had, that's what places had. It's only as I got a little bit older, metabolism wasn't as good, and so on. And something I say, all right, this is the age when you cross 30, you start to develop all kind of health things. Thank God it doesn't hit for me, but that's because I put a lot of my diet back into saying, how can I be as healthy as possible? I started buying local produce. Since I started buying local produce, I don't want to buy foreign produce. To be honest, you see, we always sold on this thing of, well, if it's foreign, it's good. If it's local, it's bad, right? And as I said, almost all my food now is local. When I could source good, mostly local stuff, and it got me to realize as well that, I think a lot of times we fail to go back to the basics and understand the basics of even of diet, of farming, of all of that. So, for example, in Diego Martin, when I was chairing the Disaster Security and Environment Committee, I had a program that that it came in before. I won't take credit for creating the program, but it was a tree planting program that myself and the manager of the disaster unit at the time tried to further as much as possible, which was the tree planting initiative. We got 2,000 trees planted one year. The next year, what I was going to do was get But we got them free of charge. No tax was spent at all for the procurement, for the planting, for anything. We got forestry officers to come, take some boys from the area, show them how to plant trees and so on, and all kind of different sizes, everything plant up in the hills. Also reduce the bushfires to 0% man-made for that year because the boys were going up to check on the trees and so on. And the vision now was to get fruit trees. So unfortunately, after the fruit trees in nursery in Ministry of Agriculture died, there's some outbreak. Sorry, didn't die. They had an outbreak of disease, so we couldn't use them. But we got regular trees again, and the vision was to have fruit trees being planted by the thousands, provided by the nursery from the government, and teach these boys now programs and how to juice and how to do all these kind of things. Unfortunately, when they removed me they removed me from my role there, they literally let all the programs that fall apart entirely. And I had 4,000 trees planted, and then within months of me being removed, when trees supposed to come back to plant, nothing was planted up till now. Not a tree plant. I had to talk to the manager to give you the list. We had a list of every kind of tree, every tree available.
Food trees? Was it food trees?
No, it was not food. It was not food trees. The plan was to go into food trees after, which again, the problem was the disease in nursery wiped out what we were supposed to get. But that was the vision of it, to have the food trees. So not a tree plant since I left there in terms of that program. However, for example, now the cost of juice in Trinidad, right? For fresh juice. First of all, we shouldn't have no drink in Trinidad. That sugar water that they call in juice and juice flavored and that kind of stuff, that is nonsense to me. Juice is juice. And don't come and say you're a juice company for 2 months and then you change name to drink. We have enough fruit and enough produce in this company to make healthy juice.
I see that on the market. I see that on the market. I see that regularly on the market. You juice for 2 months and then your name drink and you catch everybody sleeping. Yeah, I see that.
So, and the thing is, it shouldn't have to be $20 for a juice so small and half it is water and sugar. That is crazy. Not in Trinidad where things rotten on the ground.
And you spit a Portugal seed on the ground, it want to grow. You spit a pawpaw seed on the ground, it want to grow. That could grow its food. So
they have a pawpaw tree in my backyard. I throw pawpaw seed out my window one day. Months later, I come and pawpaw tree growing.
Well, I come by you for some. But Dano, I had to come back to you with this. Dano, I come back to you with this because every time we talk about this, Tony and I was on a show in Robert Amar's studio. We call with Robert Amar, we call all the farmers. We say, come and meet us on Tragrid Road. And we will march you to Parliament. We will march with you to Parliament and demand that the changes. Irrigation, water, drainage, security, protection, markets, bam, bam, bam. All of the lists. We have the shopping list. Why farmers so lazy? Somebody wrote me tonight, I'm going to tell you. Because I told her come on the show. But she's scared to come on the show because, like everybody, people that write me, afraid for their own life, but happy that I can do it. They don't care what I ask about my life. Mr. Alexander, good morning. I hope that you can help with a problem my parents are having. My dad is an ex-colony worker who is now preparing his 2-acre agricultural land to plant. Yesterday afternoon, Amalgamated Security with 3 officers drove onto the land without permission and 1 officer basically assaulted us with no face mask on. The vehicle number is TDS 8848. With your upcoming live this evening with Ms. Dano Suku, I hope you can address the farmers who may not know if these individuals have the right to enter your agricultural property and what is the protocol they need to follow. We feel very confused and cannot understand what the security officer's job description is after that incident yesterday. Thank you for what you continue to do to help fix our broken nation. Dano, when I got that is why I invited Paul Nahus, because Paul Nahus is a security professional. He was responsible for security with the as alderman. But I believe, Paul, you also worked with Amalgamated at a point in time, did you not? So stand by. I just want Dano to answer. I'll come back to you and then Tony, you'll weigh in on it. So Dano, that I posted it, so I saw that you read it. What is your take on this?
Yes, I did.
What is your take on this?
Well, first of all, Philip, that's trespassing. And secondly, Amalgamated Security, up to last week when I checked, does not have jurisdiction on those colony lands. Those lands, the security personnel is Executive Bodyguard Services, EBSSL, I think.
Dano, Rowley in power. According to Rowley, Abu would have authority in your house. Anyway, continue.
Well,
That's why they make that joke.
Well, anyhow, yeah, Philip. So at this time, I will advise those farmers to make an immediate report to the police. That's harassment, that's trespassing. Once they were carrying out their activities, which is agriculture activities on those agricultural lands, then the police, those security personnel has to really give very good account for their visit to that parcel of land. But they have no jurisdiction. It is the EBSSL.
And what is the EBSSL job? Executive Bodyguard
Yeah,
Services.
so
That was Stafford business for a while there, Paul. Was that Stafford business?
Yeah, it was, and it was sold to, I believe, the owners of SIS, or SIS bought over the company.
To his investor. His investor invests with him, and he went into the boots business, and then he knows his whole some shit to say that.
You see, when you have a security company, you see financial management is not certain people's forte, and it collapsed the point where it had to be sold. It collapsed.
But Paul, the Pradial Larceny squad is not the second largest precepted squad in the country. How come we need EBSSL?
No. Okay, well, here's how it will go, right? The Pradial Larceny squad will be police officers assigned to Ministry of Agriculture for that purpose. Now, just to bring up some points, Ms. Suku maybe could elaborate more on that, but some things I just want to inform you about as well. First of all, it doesn't qualify as trespass. Trespass has some very, very specific stuff when it comes to criminal law, including hours of the day, including if there was proper signage, including if the place was fenced off. Yeah, it's just to call it, while it might be what we say in a social context, or maybe in a true context of it being trespassing, legally it may not be trespassing. It's a very specific criteria, which honestly the burden of proving that is, I find, much too high. And I believe it was in Parliament sometime in the last few years trying to bring down that level of having to prove trespass, because right now we use a very archaic trespass law. So that's one point of it. Another point is estate permissions. So Executive Bodyguard Services Limited, you were saying, Ms. Suku, was or is the hired security firm. Who's the owner of the land?
those lands will fall, those were the Carney lands, and the management for those lands fall under EMBD, Estate Management and Business Development Company.
Yeah. So what will happen now is this. The Pradial Larceny squad,
special purpose companies.
the thing is that for security, all right, so the Pradial Larceny squad will not have the manpower to provide for those lands. So what they do is they do what was done, you could say, in the days of slavery, even it goes far. I'm not going to go into the whole history of the state police, but the state police came around to protect estate lands, to protect crops in estate lands, and during the days of slavery, when the police service was only 6 police officers and 1 station or something. But in any case, I'm not going to history, but if a company is hired by EMBD, if Amalgamated is hired by them, once they are hired by them, they will have jurisdiction over that land. Now, it's just to find out if there's a contractual agreement between Amalgamated and EMBD. But what these companies do is...
She just said up to last week, she knew Executive Bodyguard Services were the people who had the contract. How much security contract EMBD
they would hire? Well, that's it. You have to look in that as well. But it's not unusual for large companies or people with large amounts of land all over to hire different companies. For example, you will have even Blink Vigilance hires multiple companies, because some companies have better manpower capabilities in different areas of the country. Because remember, you're dealing with lodging firearms as well, and the logistics and all that. You're dealing with, they may deal with more companies. So I can't speak to who they contracted. However, if in fact they were contracted, were the people themselves squatting on the land? That's one consideration. Another consideration, the other end of that is, even if somebody is squatting on the land, even if, and I'm saying if, I don't know, even if they're doing something that is illegal in that sense, under the Supplemental Police Act, and the state police has all their powers of a police officer under the Police Act, under the rank of corporal. So they can come and police on that land. However, they can police on the land. They cannot do what they want on the land. They can come and enforce laws that are being broken. If they have to move somebody off land that is set up on squatting or whatever, then they have to go and get a court order to do so, and they cannot go and assault people. So if they have to apply their policing in policing fashion, not in how they want fashion.
Paul, and I want to say to you, and I really appreciate all of the information you're giving. And that's again the reason I'm upset with the person, because I invited them to come on the show and tell their side of the story. So we would have had more specifics, unless guesswork. Is it your land? Do you have a deed for the land? Do you have signage that says no trespassing? Have you been served with any quit notice? We don't know nothing. We just know
But I would say
no, but hold on.
Let's say even
that will stop the whole train.
Philip, I just, according to the article that what you sent me there, the person said that the father is a recipient of the Caroni 2 acre land. He was an ex-Caroni employee. And in law, they received this 2 acres of land. So that's his. It's not under the normal agricultural lease land. Those Caroni 2 acre plots, agriculture plots, and a housing lot was part of an arrangement with the closing of Caroni Limited. So according to what was sent to me, what the lady sent you, they are the owners of the land. She said her father was a Caroni worker, and that's their 2 acre plot that they normally prepare for farming purposes.
So Dano, the obvious question that anybody would ask is, and again, we're gonna stick a pin here because we don't know the motivation. Why would 3 amalgamated security officers go mad and drive on your land and assault you? They had to have something else here, whatever it is, and I'm not picking a side. But I'm saying something else is it's.
Well, Philip, I can tell you, depending on the location of the land, we have to really find out what was the real reason on those security officers attempting to go on those lands and probably intimidate the people and try to get them off the land. There has to be another reason now. Land location.
On whose behalf, Dano? On whose behalf would they do that?
Well, obviously, according to the article, it stated amalgamated security. So it means they would be acting upon instruction from someone else. So we need to find out exactly who gave them instruction. The good thing is that the lady recorded in the article a vehicle number.
Tony Defoe.
Yes. Well, what I would say, definitely, an investigation has to take place where that is concerned, because again, Msuku, you've indicated a lot of factual information pertaining towards the positioning of lands across the country and so on, and what's the parameters that they would be operating under. Some would be owned by the actual farmers, some would be leased, some would be rented or what have you. It's just a matter of really getting the particulars for fact. And like you said, they have a car number, so they are able to track down this vehicle and have an idea as to what the scheduled vehicle was on that day and in which area. And again, the investigation has to call as for who was it that sent the officers, guard officers, to these lands to intimidate these people, and what is the reason for that intimidation tactic to begin with.
Okay. So all of us had to stick a pin, because with the information we have, we could speculate one way or the other that the officers have no jurisdiction whatsoever, or that the officers had a reason and maybe it was a wrong reason. We don't know nothing. License number of the vehicle, I sent everything to the commissioner of police. Let's see where that goes, if anywhere at all. We need to talk now about the actual farmers in Trinidad and Tobago and the obstacles presenting themselves to farmers who are supposed to feed the nation. We have had government.
I want to point out one more thing with the with that speculation and that incident. If for whatever reason it happened, 2 things have to occur. 2 investigations. One is a police investigation into alleged assault or whatever is being claimed, and 2, I will tell you this: Amalgamated will track that vehicle, because I have been inside the company when, and I can't say incidents, of course, because of agreements with them when I left the company, but there would have been incidents, and trust me, if nothing else, they want to know why those people were not doing their job and making any money for the company, and do nonsense. So if you don't believe it's on goodwill, believe they want to know where their money burning with people running their own thing.
Good. And I appreciate that. So, Paul, you have this information. I know you're the kind of person that would follow stuff up. So, let's see if there's anything inside of this that warrants that. I am upset again. I say this, and I hope I trust that the person who sent it to me to raise the issues watching the show tonight, Trinidad just cannot continue to be so coward and hide behind a handful of us who's standing up for a better country. If somebody do you wrong, stand with us. We standing with you. Come out and speak out. Anyway, let's move on. The farmers themselves in Trinidad and Tobago, to get ourselves to a net food exporting position, we need a plan to feed the people. Everybody's talk feed the nation, but we have no idea. There's nowhere to go for statistical information, what our consumption data is. Nobody knows. What do we eat? How much of it do we eat? When do we eat it and why? And this is important information.
Yes,
if you're going to get into what's that, Paul?
Doubles in the morning, pizza in the afternoon, KFC for dinner. That's the statistics we have.
Doubles
and that's why we have a health problem.
Doubles don't grow on a tree. I'm talking about the things that we could grow. So
doubles is growing St. Christopher last It's apparently growing there, but all right.
I'm glad is the other Syrian on the show tonight and bring it up and not me.
Anyway, I'm waiting for a message from someone. Yes.
Why do we have a wheat-based? Why do we have a wheat-based country diet? Why do we have why are we growing up on a corn-based diet when we have so many ground provisions that we all talk about, laugh about, joke about, fight about, yam, cassava, edo, dashid, sweet potato, thing that will grow here wild and grow here forever. It's growing the dry, it's growing the wet. Why do we have an imported flour-based, wheat-based diet? Why? Who decides that?
I think that you see, one thing with the provisions, besides the yield and the low cost, there's the health benefits of it. Because one thing I got involved in a lot of discussions on agriculture when I looked at it from a public health perspective, in terms of bringing down the bill for our public health care, in terms of people not getting lifestyle type diseases. And then I started to eat things like cassava bread and stuff. To me, if you eat cassava bread, you don't want to go back to flour. Last night I went and had mashed provisions. Yeah, once you start on that kind of diet and it's more filling than flour, it's more healthy, it's cheaper. Oh God.
I'm telling people for a decade now, curry breadfruit better than curry English potato. But Dano, you in charge of you're the head of the Agricultural Society of Trinidad and Tobago. When you and the 41,000 farmers meet, you all don't talk about what we growing, when we growing, and how?
Of course, Philip, we talk about that. We talk about also market opportunities. And I just want to take off on that point in terms of your diet and why are we eating certain things. It again goes back to government policy. Let's take, for example, the school nutrition program. That's an area where government has an excellent opportunity to drive the Eat Local Healthy Food campaign. And when you look what is served in these
influence. Use a word like influence. If you use drive, they will say you're a communist.
All right, so government through policy has the opportunity to influence the dietary needs and requirements and so on within that program for the children. But instead, what you see white bread for breakfast. You see sugar soft drinks being served, right? Those are the kind of things. How much in that school nutrition program is local? I will tell you it's less than 25%. So if it is government has that opportunity to drive it from there, let's look at even the hospitals. Look at what you serve the people there. You have an opportunity. Look at, for example, right now what we having happening there. You have people to stay at home, right? So you restrict people's movement. You have an excellent opportunity now where people are home with their children to allow them to cook healthy meals, right? So instead of giving them food card, I have been advocating, I see last week they started it, to do local vegetable box with provision, cassava, and everything that Paul was talking about, our dashing and so on, put in some bhaji and so on, and deliver it to the homes. Instead of you giving people food card worth $3,000 and they go in and buy what in the
And,
supermarket.
and,
So
and Abaga
again, government policy.
Cricks and about Liberia may helping nobody, and you're absolutely correct. We need to influence a better food choice by what we allow into the country. It shouldn't be cheaper to sell KFC nonsense than it is to sell Creole food. And I mean, I tell people the two races in Trinidad and Tobago is curry and stew. That is how I see it, and I eat in both. But we could grow an entire diet that does not need to import flour. And if you don't have to import flour, you lower our foreign exchange bill, you lower our carbon footprint because you remove all that shipping and all that transport, you remove spoilage and toxicity for all the chemicals that they have to add to stabilize these things that they imported. And plus, I've been told that the highly processed bleached flour is of no nutritional value to anybody at all.
Correct. Very correct. And not only that, Philip, look at the spin-off within your own economy. You create employment, right? You stimulate a lot of economic activity because you are now eating what you grow, growing what you eat. You know, so it is
Indeed.
not eat local, buy local. It's eat what you grow what you eat. So there's a lot of spin-off economic activity could happen once that decision is taken. Again, it goes back to governments influencing the right kind of policy to really take the sector to the next level.
Tony, let me pull in this conversation here because I know that we're talking this from the position of what we can grow in Trinidad. I hear the argument go. People say that in Germany they have multi-story buildings. We could grow Bodie 5 stories, 10 stories up in the air, Badgie 15 stories up on top Central Bank Tower. And I agree with all of that. But we are part of something called CARICOM, and we are part of a Caribbean region where there have a lot of countries in the Caribbean that are not doing well. And this food issue should be a regional issue, and we should integrate, and this is a suggestion, we should integrate a food policy throughout the Caribbean and see what else we could bring to bear to lower the cost of everybody else's operational costs, to bring the whole Caribbean into a place where food prices and other ancillary prices. Tony, and I want to ask him from a political point of view, why are we not talking to Haiti? Why are we not talking to Guyana? Why are we not talking to Suriname and countries that have a lot of land that we could work with them, Jamaica, Cuba? Why are we not talking to them and doing joint ventures to grow food for our consumption? Tony, you hear me? I don't know if we lost Tony. Satish, you gotta check on that. You break up a bit.
Good point, Jerry. Hello?
Yeah, Tony, we hear you now. Yeah.
Guys.
There was some difficulty with Tony's connection, and I wanted to get Tony's take on that question, though.
But it was not the point of CARICOM to give us the competitive advantage, just as the European Union will give Europe and so on.
All right. So, like I was saying,
Tony, boy, I don't know. I think you might have to go out and come back in. Paul, finish your point there while Tony organizes his connection.
So if we come together, this Caribbean body, it's supposed to operate like the EU. It's supposed to operate like a trade bloc where we can now have that advantage of less taxes on certain things and cheaper food and so throughout the Caribbean. And when we export it now, we can be a little more competitive. We can be a little harder with the prices and so on. I mean, it's not supposed to be the point of CARICOM, Caribbean unity, Caribbean benefit, and as a region, we succeed.
But absolutely, we could be trading natural gas and oil for food with our regional neighbors who, I mean, right now you can't give oil and gas away. We should be trading it with our neighbors to see what we can get done. Or why the farmers, the government ever approach the farmers in a position like let's create our own trade within the region so that all of the countries of the Caribbean could become independent. The things that make people, the things that make countries independent, first of all, is food, water, energy, security. Once we create an independent region, the Caribbean itself could become a powerhouse.
Absolutely, Philip, you're absolutely correct. But as I said again, because we are where we are today, right, depending on foreigners to feed us, because over the years, bad governance, bad policies by all governments in the past
It's
that
not
has brought us to
foreigners.
where we are.
We relying on Paul family, the 1%.
Listen, you
Philip,
know what the thing is get for my family? When I open my mouth, because I open it often and I open it harsher.
Likewise, let me tell you something. I want to tell you, they have some Syrians, Paul, now who's Rudy Kuri, Gary Abu, I mean, Ghassan Youssef, that are politically outspoken, that upsets everybody else who think that if you have an opportunity to feather your nest, forget everybody else. I don't understand where people get the idea that half a ship could sink and the rest of it could go its merry way.
And you know, Philip, funny enough, all people talking and them and going tomorrow doing something, some more charity outreach work, right? And I say, well, I'm just posting on Facebook. I go into an area that people can't access usually. I have to have special things to go into there. I won't go into details of that. But to go and say, hey, what, I'm making a trip up there, I have 4 families taken care of. If anyone can try anything, Gaston Yusuf message me, send 4 bottles of olive oil. And I'm sure it's not a cheap olive oil. So at the end of the
No,
day, look at who you are. Step up, man.
absolutely, well said. Dano, but seriously, Dano, is there any inter-regional farming database, food database? I mean, when we're talking farming, we're talking food. We're not growing teak and lumber. We're growing food. This is what we're talking about. Feeding the country, feeding the region. Are the farmers in the region integrating to the point where we could be influencing public policy and saying, make food independence job one?
no, you do not have that kind of integration among the farmers. What you have, Philip, you have to understand that a lot of almost everything that we do, it has to fit into somebody's political agenda. And agriculture growth within the CARICOM economy is not on the CARICOM agenda. We will always hear talk when the this pandemic outbreak started in February. Immediately, CARICOM convened a quoted meeting with ministers of agriculture and institution heads. I was involved in that meeting, and it was a virtual meeting. And everybody talked. We want within a few days. We must have this plan and that plan and everything else. Up to today, since February to now, we have heard absolutely nothing. So they continue
Because
to just
they
be
were
talk,
panicked.
talk, talk, talk.
They were panicked. Tony, how's your connection? I see Tony's back. I don't know if he's hearing me.
Apparently not.
Nah, we're having difficulty with Tony. And you know, it would have been nice to have Gary Aboud in this conversation too, to speak from the position of fishermen and friends of the sea, because the fishermen also go a long way into contributing to feeding the nation. I don't know why the price of fish in the region is so high. Tony has seen some movement.
Not hearing here.
You hearing me, Tony?
Not hearing.
Yeah, well, that's a shame. I mean, well, we still in the 1970s when it comes to internet in Trinidad and Tobago. We've been talking Wi-Fi for everybody in our country, the country the size of a rock in the sea. I mean, we can't get nothing right. There's nothing we can do right. Nothing.
Philip, I just want to finish off on the point.
Yes, go ahead, Dano. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to finish off on the point that we were talking about the regional food trade and how it can contribute to food security. Historically, there has been inter-island trade. If you were to go down on the CARICOM wharf like on a Tuesday or so, you will see a boatload of, exactly. what has happened now, and I'm going to make a very important point, because and it's something I will talk to you off air for us to follow up. Last week, the minister, now there's a process when you import these food. You have to go through certain examination to ensure that you are not bringing in pests and diseases and so on into the country that will damage your own agriculture here. So it comes within the Plant Quarantine Act and whatever trade regulations and so on that is within that purview. Last week, our own Minister of Agriculture went and he wrote that part of the Plant Quarantine Act. And he has now eliminated that process for a physical examination on agriculture produce, whether it comes from the island or wherever. So you now could bring in anything you want. There is no checks and balances in place at the port, no physical examination to determine whether or not that is safe and healthy for the consumption by your people here. So he has put the health of the people of Trinidad and Tobago at risk. So you had open border for migration of every and anybody coming to the country. Now you open your border to any and everything in your food supply chain coming in into your country. And that
In
is
my
very
lifetime,
dangerous.
in my lifetime, there was a mealybug infestation that nearly wiped out large.
Exactly. Exactly. And when Barbados and those countries had stopped trading with us, our agriculture produce, they stopped importing. The US stopped importing was because of that mealybug. And we worked very hard over the years. We got rid of that situation, got control of that mealybug. We were able, through trade protocol arrangements, to reopen that trade. And we have now what is happening there at the Ministry of Agriculture. They have now dumped that process, forget about this agriculture trade, and now open up the borders of Trinidad and Tobago to anything and everything come. That is dangerous.
What about WTO protocols? WTO protocols should demand quarantine to prevent what we just experienced with COVID-19, the agricultural and food version of it wiping out an entire region. Because you're supposed to isolate, quarantine, test before you allow things into your country. So it has
Exactly.
these changes have been made law?
Well, I got an email and they have indicated, yes, it went to Parliament. So you are telling me you have 41 people sitting down in that Parliament and put every citizen in this country health at risk by allowing that to go through that change to the Plant Quarantine Act.
Well, I
Not only
personally
that,
want to.
yeah, Philip, I was going to make the point that in terms of opening up all this our borders now for any and everything to come in some countries they have not even done pest risk analysis. You don't know what kind of insecticides they are using, you know, whether it's harmful to human consumption. We are seeing on the internet day after day with Monsanto and all of these companies and the kind of dangerous chemicals that is out there that people are using on the produce. So this situation, we talking COVID-19, but what has happened last week at the Ministry of Agriculture with this examination by the Plant Quarantine Services, eroding this process, that is more dangerous than COVID-19.
I need to find out if those changes did in fact take place. Global food stocks and global food policy supposed to dictate that you have certain policies in place to protect your food supplies. Tony, you're
Correct.
back. You hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we're back. We're back. Sorry about that. I know I missed a little bit of the discussion just now, but the contribution I wanted to put into the fray just before I got cut off was in recent time, within the last 6 months, I should say, we actually been talking to farmers out of Barbados, Antigua and Nevis, the U.S. Virgin Islands, ironically, as well as the Dominican Republic. Now, these are people who are peers of mine, friends that we've conducted business before, and they themselves deal in farming. They have had some issue where farming and feeding their own population is concerned, where they themselves have started actually importing a lot of food from the outside to pacify their population. Now, after letting them know what the initiative of the Progressive Empowerment Party is in trying to create a self-sufficiency for our own country, as well as have an overstock that we can look at now in finding other islands throughout the Caribbean. You made a great point earlier, Philip, as far as having a regional agenda where the agriculture sector is concerned, being able to pacify and assist our own neighbors within our own region. And I would tell you this, our Prime Minister talk about we're not able, and you had said before in Europe and so on that they have indoor farming and so on, and these are some of the different techniques and technologies that we've also been looking at in the event that we don't have enough lands in order to pacify the region in itself. But again, it's about being proactive and gaining as much information as possible, techniques, technologies, and having them implemented, obviously tested and implemented here locally here in Trinidad and Tobago. And that basically has been the initiative of the Progressive Empowerment Party for the last 3 years. It's, again, everyone knows that we're not funded by any deep pocket financiers, or we don't have a war chest of money. But, within our own capacity, the assistance and help and support from our local farmers, they have been able to acquire as much information to pass on to us so we can put it and archive that information, make sense of the nonsense. And again, having consumption data, having proper soil testing to know what crops is able to grow in what areas, having the actual numbers. And again, having to develop agriculture here in Trinidad and Tobago will contribute in a great sense towards the GDP of the country, number one, having our food security in place, number two, and then now looking at the third step in having exports on a large scale. And again, in a scale where it outweighs what our own country consumes, which in turn will now benefit our GDP and the development of Trinidad and Tobago. Where the new technologies again are concerned, again, we have located areas that is not as sufficient or efficient enough to grow proper agriculture, and in those areas we were looking at earmarking as far as having those structures, multi-level structures, and doing indoor farming. Listen, the plan in itself is a holistic, large plan with many tentacles going into many different areas where the agriculture sector is concerned, because as you know, both Paul and Ms. Suku, there's a large downstream industry associated to farming and the agriculture sector. And again, this is something that can actually be the new oil boom in Trinidad and Tobago once it's done right, once the development is done right and investments are done right.
Correct. Our first two booms were agriculture booms. We had a cocoa boom and a sugar boom. But Tony,
well, yes.
Tony, you come back from that technical difficulty and you hit 2, 6, and a 4. Well done. But Paul raised something earlier, and it's important to go back to that, because the health issue is an important issue. Trinidad have the highest count of heart disease for young men and diabetes in the Western world. We have our what killing us when people got into following World Odometer and recounting the COVID-19 every day, they started to pay attention to all the other things that killing us, and all the other things that killing us.
Hold on, I want to add this, and that's another thing with the redevelopment of Trinidad and Tobago. We need to re-educate our people here on the ground across the board where health is concerned, what type of foods that we eat. I mean, we talk about what we cook and make here locally, but in what we actually do as cooking our local foods, it's high in cholesterol. There's a lot of things that is on a negative aspect as to what we consume, even what we actually cook in our homes. And I do believe, yes, we are people that love to have a robust taste in our mouth. We like a lot of spices and a lot of pepper and a lot of everything else. But the point of the matter is that re-education of the population for them to know exactly what are the proper portions in whatever spices and so on to add to food for taste. As something
You're correct. You're correct. And
Go ahead.
I know that for a fact. Dano raised earlier that bringing foods without checking is not just worrying about things like mealy blood. You also have in the United States of America, the Justice Department just ruled against Monsanto with Roundup, and Roundup have to set aside a couple $1 billion to pay for cancers. But you don't want to get cancer and collect money. That is not a way to make it in life. So, I mean, we need to protect our people. Dano, you said something, and I'm coming back to Paul, when you said health is important, and you have to have, when you're looking at agriculture as a way forward, Tony touched on it. There are two ways agriculture affects the national budget, and it increases our income and it lowers our cost of operating. We have to include in the conversation the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Planning. Long before we reach our Minister of Agriculture, we need to know, we need a plan. We need to know where we're going from here. What are we trying to do? Tony, when you touch on the things that we add to the diet, I tell people this thing golden ray. If you leave golden ray outside, ants don't bite it, you know, mold don't grow on it. I don't even know how that qualifies as food. MSG, people buying into MSG. The reason I cannot eat KFC is because I am allergic to MSG. I just get violent migraines. So, and I know that the Colonel's secret recipe is Vetsin, and I can't eat MSG, so I don't go in KFC at all. But look at the things that grow here well. Avocado, the best source of natural fat in the world, and our Pollock avocado is the best avocado on the planet, our butter avocado. Look at breadfruit. Breadfruit is the only low glycemic starch that stabilizes your sugar, as opposed to wheat and potato that spikes your sugar. Look at things like soursop that the rest of the world now talking about as a natural cancer fighter. Look at guava, 5 times the vitamin C of an orange. I mean, look at these things. I could get an apple in every Massey store in Trinidad. I wouldn't begin to know where to go to get a guava. How is this who we are?
You know, and my cousin used to tell me something when I was younger, my older cousin, and I'll never forget it. He used to go places and looking for fruit. He would be picking up fruit that'll have a bird bite or ants. I said, Doc, why you buying, why you picking that up? He said, because I want to make sure if they eating it, it's good for me. There are things not touched. If they don't want to touch that, if ants and birds don't want to eat that, I ain't eating that.
Good point.
Agreed. So the conversation, I mean, Lincoln Myers, God rest his soul. Paul, you know, he was a good friend of ours. We spent a lot of time
very good.
learning from
Thank you.
Lincoln. Lincoln was he brought dwarf breadfruit to Trinidad. I mean, dwarf breadfruit as a crop they say one breadfruit tree will feed a family of 4 for 75 years. People planting frangipani in the yard.
I don't want to
this,
go
Phil.
on out there theories on it or so, but just saying, if a man have a breadfruit tree and can feed a family for that long, where certain people who are just middlemen reselling going to bring in wheat for that family for the amount of time?
Indeed.
That is sometimes it's
Let's talk security, because we touched on this the last time you were here. That if you are in possession of more than, say, 5 pounds of any one produce item, you're supposed to have some kind of documentation to say where you get it. And I want to tell Trinidad and Tobago, my mother had a Julie mango tree that for half the year, it used to give away, it used to produce so much mango, we used to get sick of Julie mango, she used to get sick of giving away. But the sprangers in the area used to be in her yard every night. My mother cut down the tree. And she cut down a perfectly good Julie mango tree to protect herself. Now you tell me why we don't have a simple law that says, and the other fella, all of us used to buy little produce from Indigo Martin thinking we helping him, a tall red fella they used to call Yeti. Now he dead now and he gone. But the point is, Yeti used to get that by jumping people wall. And we should not have been supporting Yeti, and we should not have been buying from him unless he could have proven that he went by Mrs. So-and-so and she gave him permission to pick all her mango and she write it on a copybook paper for him and give him so he can go and sell. And the police supposed to be able to stop every single person who has a volume of any kind of produce and ask them, how do you come to be in possession of this? Because that is the only way to protect the farmers. We can't put the army on the farm. What we need to do is protect the actual produce. If the produce has to be accounted for, the farm will be safe. What do you think, Dano?
Well, Philip, the last time we chatted, I spoke about several initiatives government can adopt to address the issue of predial larceny. You are correct, and what we also need to do is have stiffer penalties. You need to treat predial larceny as a serious crime. Right now, it is looked at as a petty crime. Apart from that, you also need the patrol on the farms because sometimes you have farmers stealing from farmers. So it's a multi-pronged approach if you want to address the issue of predial larceny.
The thing is that with predial larceny, it is in our law. There are laws that a police officer can stop anybody with a quantity of fruit. I can't remember the exact number. It's in the law. If you have more than a certain quantity of fruit, they can stop you and they can ask you now for a bill to show you purchased it. And then that bill must contain, I can't give you the specific, I can't remember the specifics offhand. But by law, it must say the amount, it must say price. There are certain elements that bill has to contain. Otherwise, you lock up if you can't prove that. That is in the law.
But then, why aren't we enforcing it? So then why aren't we enforcing it?
Well, the thing is, some officers enforce it, and it's become such a cultural norm that you just see boys selling fruit, people selling a set of fruit. A lot of it is stolen. As was said by Mr. Coop, farmers steal from farmers. To me, predial larceny is the second most, probably after larceny, servant, ignored and prevalent crime in this country. It makes farming unprofitable for some people totally.
Very true.
Totally.
Very, very true. Very, very true. Paul, you hit the nail on the head right there. What I would also want to contribute towards this whole discussion is this. Outside of the actual foods that we eat, where agriculture is concerned for sustainability, another thing that is also within a dovetail, we've just recently decriminalized marijuana. Let's forget about the whole recreational use of it. Because it was illegal for so many decades, people were still using it recreationally on the ground in Trinidad. So let's not even think of the recreational use and application of marijuana. There's two other applications, medicinal as well as industrial. Now, medicinal also works hand in hand with the recreational use because again, it's consumption is consumption patterns that you have to initiate in order to have this effective. Again, that's another industry by itself. But my personal focus really has been in recent time the industrial application of marijuana, where the hemp fibers are concerned with building products such as hempcrete and fabrics and so on. Now, that in itself can revolutionize our construction industry in Trinidad and Tobago, our develop, especially if we're looking at a country that we want to develop at this point in time. Again, it's a twofold because you're able to, one, pacify the population where feeding them is concerned, number one. Also, having foreign exports to also put into the kitty of the pie of our GDP, and as well as having now to develop industry outside somewhat of agriculture in itself, where food is concerned, where we are using applications for industrial and construction applications. And again, one example, hempcrete, for example, with those fibers, you have the bricks that are much lighter, they're stronger, they are more insulated. And if I'm not mistaken, we're doing tests right now. There are a couple individuals in Trinidad and Tobago that's testing this as we speak. And as far as they're indicating to us that it just might also be somewhat cheaper once done right with the right technologies and tools. So all these are different things that we have to really, really scrutinize, dive into, get as much information as possible. And again, being able to make those, have those developments happen here on the ground in Trinidad instead of having to import anything. I mean, it's a no-brainer, man. And again, it just shows time and time again, 11 administration passing through Parliament, no leader that has passed through there has had any clue as to really what it is to develop Trinidad and Tobago.
I find out our past, and I thought that we would get through an entire show on agriculture without bringing up marijuana, but no such luck. When we talk, once we talk in agriculture, because they have a whole generation that can't wait to get their license to go out there and grow marijuana. Boss, we growing
No,
but
wait a minute.
high.
Hold on, Philip. And I'll tell you this. Our population, especially the young people, has been basically jaded in mind, where they have not gotten influence in getting involved where agriculture is concerned. It always seemed to be a poor man's job. And that's the impression that it has been for the past few decades. The point is, again, giving proper information to the young people, because I have spoken to a lot of young people, and one of the things that they are willing to do is getting to farming, obviously with insertion of the whole cannabis industry. And again, if we use a model, for example, to get a lot of the young people right down in a point 14 there, with the same model, having discussion with the young people there, they were saying, they're more than happy to if they were to get an acre of land, they are happy to grow a quarter of that in hemp or marijuana, and they would be more than happy to use the other 3/4 to grow agriculture, as in food for us to eat. That is an incentive and a strategy that can be used now to influence a lot of the young people to get them involved, because again, it's a very sour taste in the young people's mouths where agriculture is concerned. Nobody wants to get dirty. Nobody wants to go and deal in the sun and toil in the dirt and so on.
My generation. I would say this, my generation, or just under my generation, but around my generation, let me tell you something. I have plenty of my contemporaries right now. If you give them land, they're going out and farm. There is a reverting back to farming. A lot of people my age, and let me tell you something. If you give me land, I'll go and farm it. They have a resurgence of that with this generation.
But there is industrial farming, not even industrial, high technology farming taking place right now. That's exciting young people. That's exciting young people. Yeah, and you could get a warehouse, and with timers and water supply, and lights, you could create a double growing day in every single 24-hour cycle and expedite the production. They're learning stuff. What Tony just said is a fact. But Dano mentioned earlier that the government not doing anything to support farming, and it is more than cutting road and paving access road. When you get consumption data and you learn, Vince Ram was on this show and he talked about growing sugar to provide molasses. We need a whole new mindset. The government has a role in leading from the position of processing. You need to be able to say, if tell people grow pepper, we will process pepper mash for you, because the people who want to buy pepper from you will prefer to buy already processed pepper mash, not so, Dano?
Correct. There's the value chain, you see, and this is something when you're doing an agriculture plan, a program, you must include the entire value chain. There are certain commodities that commands good value as a fresh, and then there are certain commodities, for example, hot pepper is best when you do process, when you do hot sauce. So you must engage the entire value chain when you're doing your agriculture planning.
I had spent a lot of time abroad, and I will never forget. Most of my time was training in Tennessee. I will never forget walking in Tennessee. Walking into a store in Nashville, Tennessee anymore. I walk into a store called the Pepper Palace. An entire wall of the store was Trinidad Maruga pepper sauce in the middle of redneck land. We see in that, and I asked the fellas, like, is that pepper any good? Right? And he said, man, that's the best. That's one of the best peppers we have. And all that. I said, well, I'm from Trinidad. And he's like, oh, well, yeah, well, the great pepper. We have to be some fools if all over the world they're revering this Maruga pepper
Paul,
and we are processing in
Paul, you
mass
in law
and export it?
enforcement. Paul, you in law enforcement. Our Maruga scorpion pepper. You know what is the #1 use of that Maruga scorpion pepper?
Pepper spray, OC spray.
Pepper spray. We could be
Spray.
dominating the global pepper spray industry. I mean,
Philip,
I thought.
let me. When a few years back, right? I was looking directly into that. I was looking at suppliers. I was going to produce pepper spray from Maruga scorpion pepper, and it would have been top. But because of the laws in Trinidad, you can't sell, you can't be in possession. So I was looking to make it an export, not even sell locally, make an export. But because of the laws, it's too iffy. You can't cut.
But
Because the laws backward.
this is where we need duty-free production zones, where you grow all your pepper on all the land that you have, and you grow all your pepper and you reduce it to pepper mash, and you take your pepper mash into the duty-free zone to create your pepper spray for export. It has nothing to do with the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. We think like children. This country is run like a kindergarten. When Tony talking marijuana, and making joke here, the entire global food chain that Dano just referred to was built on the United States tobacco farming model. And you go and watch how farmers, sharecroppers grow tobacco and walk with the tobacco, bundle to them, and they wait and they tell them, yeah, I will accept this from you, I'll pay you 21 cents a pound. Boom. You make your deal, you cut, you get a piece of paper, and you go on your way. And that's exactly how we're supposed to work with marijuana and hemp in this country. But we have never, I mean, I listened to Kamala Prasad Bisesa on the campaign trail talk about she grow body and bundle baji. How come for your whole 5 years and 6 months, not one body or baji crop?
Everyone go rushing to grocery and buying Florida orange, right? That Florida orange. That have nothing on a fresh squeeze orange in Trinidad making orange juice. It have nothing nutritionally, it have nothing taste-wise on it. Yet to get the same volume will be more expensive. And as I say, if you split a seed on the ground, it growing. One I really can't get is that these things are shot so much up in price because someone wants to make a sugar drink, or somebody because they're a middleman importing Florida orange, whoever it is imported or imported, right? They have no interest in having that grow. They have no interest in that.
And the next thing, anybody who ever drink Portugal juice will stop drinking orange juice. Portugal juice is richer, it has more vitamin C and it's a lot tastier. We grow passion fruit here. You grow a passion fruit Portugal mix, and that's the sweetest thing you will drink. You wouldn't want orange after that. Rich in vitamin C, and we don't have to have this set of chemicals. You're talking about hardy trees here. I tell people a mango tree, a avocado tree, a breadfruit tree, whether you pay attention to it or not, it's growing and it's bearing. You don't mold it, you don't talk to it, you don't fertilize it, you don't do nothing. All we need to do is have a...
They're growing fully by accident. You drop seed watermelon, the amount of people drop watermelon seed on our property, walk off and come back and have what? One of my uncles have land and he threw watermelon seed. But he went down after checking for months and he's seeing things growing.
I get watermelon from that crop, Paul. He was my neighbor for a while.
Yes, in Degomar.
I get watermelon from that.
By accident.
But
by
mills,
accident.
something like a mill, Dano. If you tell people to grow cassava, yam, and all these things that we can mill into flour, that's the future. The future is breadfruit flour. The future is cassava flour. Paul talk about cassava bread. Maria's Bakeries make a cassava bread, and when you taste that toasted, you really don't want to go back to anything else. I just give Maria's Bakery credit, but it is the old people from 100 and 200 years ago that have the recipe that pass it down one to the other, that used to crush what we call it big, is a big mortar and pestle, still a mortar and pestle. The one that have a big 2x4 that you're crushing thing with, that's still a mortar and pestle. They used to make the flour in that. Why we can't give
that's a big thing in the States now, in Europe and the States, that is, if you go avocado toast and this type of exotic bread, sweet potato bread, it's big thing to them. And this thing that we have growing in mass that farmers have to throw away sometimes, it's rotten. So we have so much.
So then the question is not if, because the answer is of course. So the question is not when, because the answer to that is no. So the question of how, it had to be Like every show that we've had on this Plain Talk, every guest we've had, it always comes down to political will. We don't catch our water that falls in the hills. We wash it out to the sea. So we have drought 6 months out of the year. And we could fix that, but for political will. We could secure the nation's borders and stop the influx of drugs and contraband and guns. But for political will, we could fix our justice system and make it functional. We've known that for 40 years. But for political will, and Trinidad could be food self-sufficient. We could diversify the economy. We could abolish the SCA and have a proper education system that leaves none of our children behind. We could have a functional healthcare system. Come on, political will. The how is to get rid of these political pretenders. The how is to get rid of these political pretenders that using parliament, cabinet, government as means to feather their own nest and put people in there who actually have vision for the country. Dano, I want to tell you something. All the farmers has talked to me, all of them have a lot of information to give, but you have an understanding of this business. And I'm telling you, you have a contribution to make. And I hope that you are willing to make that contribution. We have to get this country back on its feet because the future is very scary.
Philip, I could not have agreed with you more. I could not have agreed with you more. You're very correct. This future is very, very scary because not just we're dealing with COVID right now, but post-COVID, other countries, the countries that we relied on for our food supply, the United States, they have their own challenges with food supply internally. Then you are stepping in, you are changing your weather. They have these seasonal, so they're moving into the new planting season. So when will you get that produced? Apart from that, you don't have your revenue from your oil and gas. How are you going to buy the food? So you have so many challenges. It's so scary. Sometimes I try not to think of it. And yet the politicians who are there now, who's supposed to be protecting what we have, is the one who are putting us at risk. So again, you're correct. The political will to create that change, to bring about that change is what we're looking for. I am prepared. I am ready and willing to make my contribution wherever, whenever I'm called upon. I love my country.
I'll say this, Ms. Suko would know better than me in terms of land availability. But in terms of land availability for farming, whenever people bring that up, I say it don't land availability don't really matter that much because if you can look at Israel and you can look at Saudi Arabia and you can look at places in the middle of the desert and they have no problem with water and they growing crops in mass, we have no excuse. We really have no excuse. I think we have too much. That's the problem.
Too much money.
Too much land, too much money, too fertile now. We have to be in countries where they had to toil for fertility, where they had to make artificial structure, and they are going so far with that. But we, where as Philip said, you spit a seed on the ground, man growing watermelon crop by mistake. Other countries that have no, we are surrounded by water. Water falls from the sky. If it rains for more than 10 minutes, you're up to your neck in water, literally in some places. But they don't rain over the reservoirs, and what happens after a flood? The first thing you hear is what? I say reservoirs low. I can't understand that. I just can't understand it. It have to be by design. That can't be so by accident.
Hey man, we had to go into these things more in depth, and you all raise such important issues that I think that what we have to do is we have to have a regular show on this topic, and we have to deal with it issue by issue, so that we could dig down to details and we could show Trinidadians and Tobagonians that in quick time we could fix this country. So I mean, we've gone on beyond the hour and we have some more time. I just want to give each of you the opportunity to say your closing comments. I mean, I want to thank everybody for coming. Before I give you all your opportunity for your closing comments, I want to thank Dano Suku, who is a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate every time you come on the show. I want to thank Paul Daniel Naus. He is a long-time friend, but I know him as a compassionate, caring Trinbagonian, and he's been We've been feeding the homeless down in town for over a decade together. When I called Paul on Christmas morning, he there with me. So I want to tell Paul thanks a lot. I mean, I know the size of the contribution that he is trying to make, and I hope to be there to see it when he does. Anthony Defoe, Deputy Political Leader of the Progressive Empowerment Party, and a man who, when you hear him speak, you know is just passion for a better Trinidad and Tobago. I want to thank all of you for joining us. I want to let you go into your closing comments in the order that you came on, and so I'll start with you, Dano. I'll go to Paul and then Tony. And as we tell all our guests, take as much time as you need.
All right. First of all, to you, Philip, and the team, I want to really tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to share our thoughts and, let the country know that agriculture isn't all what they believe. Farmers are not in receipt of all these subsidies and incentives. Farmers are very, very dedicated people. They work very hard. They do their best. They give their best. But unless you are supported by strong government policy, the sector will not move forward. The farmers and the Agriculture Society of Trinidad and Tobago, we are fully prepared and committed to support whatever change is required. But you have said it quite nicely so often, Philip, is that we need that political will to bring about that change. We do not lack land, we do not lack farmers, we do not lack technology. We know how to make cassava flour, we know how to make breadfruit flour. All of that technology, research and development have already been done. We have to question why we still grow the best hot pepper in the world, the best cocoa in the world, and we still export it as a raw material. And unless we could bring about real answers to those questions, we will not be ready in any way to take this sector forward. And what is happening right now with our food security, we are into very troubling times. Food security doesn't just mean growing food and growing enough food. It is about making the food available to the people. Food security really and truly is, do I have food on my table? Do I have food in my kitchen, in my house? So when I wake tomorrow, I know that I have something to eat and to feed my family. Because what we have seen in the past couple of weeks, a lot of agriculture produced out on the fields, but the connectivity of getting it to the people was the real challenge. So we are in some very, very difficult times. I am not seeing that kind of focus from the government as to how we're really going to get out of this in the short, medium, or long term. We would have heard initiatives by the Prime Minister with this post-recovery team coming on board, but that is not all. You and your team, Philip, I want to say that at this time, this country needs you all, needs the voice, needs PEP, because you continue to create this awareness of what exactly is happening in this country and bring reality to the people. So I really want to commend you all and thank you all for giving us, the Agriculture Society, and me in particular, the opportunity to really voice our concerns, share our thoughts, and of course, let Trinidad and Tobago know that it is about time we grow what we eat and we eat what we grow.
Dano, every guest that come on this show, I give them the opportunity to say and to answer this question. Because when the opportunity presents itself for all of us to serve, when the call is made, I hope you're ready to answer that call.
Philip, since 2011, I have been on the streets of Port of Spain all over. Today, when we protested in 2018 to save St. Augustine Nurseries, when government wanted to bulldoze it and put up 850 housing units, you remember how we took to the streets and we stood up. We let our voices be heard. Today, this country must say thank you very much. Because in moving forward, in really taking our country forward, ensuring the survival of our people rests on St. Augustine Nurseries to a large extent. So I am always ready and willing to answer that call. Once that call comes forward, Danosuku is ready. I am Trinidad and Tobago.
Amen. Paul Daniel Nahus, take as much time as you need.
Well, I'll start off by saying, other than the scorpion pepper, glad Nsuku brought up cocoa, because I was lucky enough to have visited Switzerland once, and in Zurich, a place that honestly, when you go there, I didn't realize, boy, I buy one bottle of water and had to fill it up for the whole time in public fountain, because things were expensive there. But good water, you could drink public water anyway, but that is a story for another time. I saw an ice cream stand, and on any ice cream stand, there was chocolate ice cream, and it was chocolate. It was written in it is in their language, but I saw Trinidad marked on it. The person didn't know what a Trinidad was that was selling it. Come to find out, they boasting that it making a chocolate ice cream in Switzerland with Trinidad cocoa, and Switzerland boasting about is Trinidad cocoa we're using. Why we can't have pride light in our own products? Why we can't produce like that?
Indeed.
So I will say this about what I look at as the economic impact of food security. First of all, if you don't have food security, you have nothing. Because no amount of money you have, no amount of military force you have, no amount of anything you have matters if your people can't eat, if they're starving. Everything else collapses. So everything is built, as you used to say, America built on farmers, here built on farmers, everywhere built on farmers, because you need food. Not everything you grow in a lab, you need food. In terms of one thing on the economy is that once you start producing enough, factories providing employment, providing taxes for the government to producing everything, you have to flood the market with local food, have factories open up, hiring people, making local produce, and you start to cut down your health bill as well when people are taught from primary school level healthy stuff. When you make juice from a factory, it should be when you say no sugar added, inspection for that. Make sure you don't throw any sugar in that. Make sure it's pure juice when you say it's pure juice. Those kind of things are important to really build the thing, not from just agriculture, but from production, from engineering, going straight up the line. I'll speak just for a little minute on security because that is my area of expertise. As I said, I believe the last and other is asking for your bill and things on your thing should be expanded to every police officer. Where every police officer should be, you see somebody suspicious with produce, stop them. I was told by
Paul, I need to interrupt you for 1 minute because I want you to start back over because you were breaking up and we want to hear what you said before. But that point you just raised, I want to tell you something. I was driving down the road once and there was a truck pulling a trailer with piles on the back with a police officer on a bike in the front with him. So he was in the right lane. And I pulled alongside the officer and I told him, I said, that truck is supposed to be in the left lane. By law, he said, which law? I said, Chapter 55 of the Road Traffic Act. And I drove off and he moved the truck across to the left lane. Now, whether or not it's Chapter 55 of the Road Traffic Act or not, what is funny is he didn't know the law. And I think that if you have traffic police, if you are riding a motorbike as a traffic police, you should know the law. And laws like what you just spoke about. I want you to go back and say what you were saying before, but I just want to say that you should mention and you should recommend to the commissioner that basic law, police should know basic law. Anyway, go back to what you were saying.
Well, I was just saying is that there are laws in place for predial larceny that if you're found with, I can't quote it right now, but if you are found with, because I wrote the precept exam and but both say I scored quite highly on it. And one topic was predial larceny. And predial larceny, they do carry certain penalties. There are certain authorities, police can pull over somebody who is transporting fruit and vegetable in certain quantities, over a certain quantity. They need to have a bill with specifics of marked on the bill. The person you purchase it from, your name, there's the cost of it, the weight, there's a whole list of a checklist. And every police officer should know that, especially in certain areas coming out of places like San Grande and so on, where there's a high predial larceny, police officers just actively stop people. Or if they see people selling fruits and selling vegetables, stop and if they know they're not a farmer, if they prove they're a farmer and they have land and so, well, they could prove that. However, it is important because it has made farming unprofitable. And I'm sure Ms. Suku would agree with me. Some farmers can't make a profit. They can't make money because of people stealing their crops and livestock alone. Far less those who people go on their farm now and the farm equipment. So it has to be addressed.
Dano just tell us farmers thief and farmers crops. I didn't even know that. I mean, that is as low as it gets.
Yep. And what happens now is that I think that the idea of a predial larceny squad, it needs to be expanded across the TTPS because, and the thing is, it has to be enforced in this manner that whenever you purchase something, if you're purchasing a certain quantity, you know there's a law, follow it. I spoke to a forestry officer once, and he told me that we're talking about this sale up. I'm very particular about, because I used to hunt, so I'm very particular about all the illegal hunting that goes on. I don't like the poaching, illegal hunting. It is destroyed hunting in Trinidad. And a forest officer was telling me, it's difficult to prosecute. If you see somebody come with the meat chopped up and, proof that, it's a certain thing about proof that they want their land or whatever. I said, listen, if somebody say they buy it from somebody, I said, well, where's the bill? So they expecting a man in the bush either hunting and selling wild meat to work with a bill book? I said, yes. If he's selling it commercially, if it's one guti, you sell it commercially, have above the issue was if the person didn't have a license and had the meat and say they buy it from someone, well, no problem, you buy it, let me see the bill, let me see your hunting license with the animal on it, or let me see the bill. Yes, they should work with that in the bush. Yes, just like someone in the market selling to you. If they're selling you over a certain quantity, you need to write a bill for that, because if police stop you, technically they can't charge you. So imagine if you buy to feed the homeless, if you buy for your own family and it's over a certain quantity, police can stop you, check you, and they have to ascertain whether or not you purchase those goods. So I think the law needs to be very strictly enforced to be able to protect the farmers and their crops. I guess that's basically my say about it. I'd like to thank everyone here. I'd like to tell Ms. Tuku we could always get in contact with me, since we do a lot of feeding for homeless people in particular, that if you have crops that maybe that if you give us for a good price, if you know that you have more than you can sell in the market, speak with me, you can work out something, because we could end up in a win-win situation. People get fed, you get something for the crops, It would, of course, everything within reason, and I thank everyone. Philip, I thank you, Tony, Suku. Thank you very much for having me on the show and having this interaction. It was very beneficial to everyone here in the business.
Paul, thanks a lot for that. I love that point you just raised. Dano, I have seen people advertising on Facebook, and I just want to put this out here that they can't sell their crops, they can't get rid of their crops. I want to tell the Progressive Empowerment Party and people like Paul and all of us stand together that we would assist if you have crops, if people have crops to sell. Now, don't wait till the crops rotten to call us. But if you see that down the line you're having problems, we will facilitate some kind of pop-up shop or market where you can come and at least liquidate and get something back from it. What Paul's saying is an absolute fact. Good idea, Paul. Anthony Defu.
Well, again, Philip, thanks for having me on the show tonight. I want to extend great thanks to Ms. Suku as well as Paul Nahus for being a guest on the show. You've given critical information, and I think this is definitely the first step as far as making a line of communication, understanding where we are, having an actual plan, knowing where we need to go, and actually creating something in order for us to get there. I look forward for the future shows that we're going to have together, as well as the discussions that we are going to have. Ms. Suku, I will be contacting you within the next few days, just to simply bring you up to speed on certain things and possibly having a personalized meeting with you as well. But as far as the show has gone today, again, a lot of information has been placed into the public. I hope our listeners and viewers, it's taking something away from it. Again, the Progressive Empowerment Party is doing all that it can do. We are not in office right now, but even though we're not in office and even though we're not well funded, we have done and excelled, and I have to personally say, because I've seen it with my own eyes, more than any other administration has in the 57 years that we've had independence. And again, we are not in office. And the point is a matter of simple information, having people like Ms. Suku had said before, with political will, and having individuals that's able to actually get the job done. That's the mission of the day. The country can be redeveloped. We can have a diverse economy. We can have a very robust economy. But we need to work and start the process now. Again, thank you so much for having me on the show, Philip. And again, to the guests, much love and thanks to you all as well.
Well, after that group hug, because everybody, I mean, Tony has wrapped it up so nice. I need to say again, thank all of you for coming. We will continue this. Dano, and I want to tell you something. I mean, I know that the industry that you're in, real cutthroat. I get all the comments and things people make. And I want to give everybody the opportunity to come and, because I don't do Philip Edward Alexander, don't do the shoo-shoo thing. I've been a victim of the shoo-shoo thing for all of my life. And every time anybody steps up and open their mouth for a better Trinidad and Tobago, the easiest thing to do is to bad talk them and pull them down. I want to give everybody an opportunity to come and talk, of course, respectfully. Nobody's just coming to castigate and denigrate other people's characters, you know. But we have to be able to talk and work together. This country is too easy for people to divide and rule, and half the time we're dividing ourselves without even being set on the mission. So I just want to say that we're going to be doing more of these farming shows, and all the farmers out there, whether you love or hate Dano, but you want to contribute to Trinidad and Tobago, come and have a respectful conversation, and let's see how we can all work together, yes? So thank all three of you, Paul Naus, Anthony Defoe, Dano Suko. It was my pleasure tonight. And Trinidad and Tobago, that's where we are. That's where we leave it tonight. The plain talk tonight, feeding the nation. We touch on a lot of information that should have you thinking a little bit. And we're going to do more of this. We're going to be drilling down into food production. So when the Prime Minister tells you the nation can't feed itself, you'll be able to tell him nonsense. When the Prime Minister says the economy cannot diversify, you'll be able to tell him nonsense. And you'll be able to call them out, all of them. All of them who want to make promises, who were in office before, they didn't do what they want to do now, why they didn't do it then. You need to be informed, educated, and empowered so that when they talk, you can tell them nonsense. Today, we touched on feeding the nation. It is possibly the most critical thing that the government could do where the well-being of the citizenry are concerned. Food, security, water. I mean, come on, it's a no-brainer. We need to make sure we can protect our people and give everybody the chance to maximize their own potential, hope, and opportunity. That starts and ends with a plate of food on the table in the morning and the evening for you and your family. Nothing could drive a man to crime. Nothing could drive an otherwise normal, decent, law-abiding man to crime like hungry children. The government did a dastardly poor job of managing this country during this coronavirus pandemic. They shut the economy down and left 700,000 people hungry. We looked on in horror, and were it not for people like Paul Naus and Inchan Ishmael and Living Water Community and all the other individuals and organizations, and yes, the Progressive Empowerment Party, Felicia Holland, and Debbie Jaikaran, the rest of the crew that worked together with all the donors and all who got involved, and all of us couldn't do what we did without the help of all the people in the background who say, look, I can help with this and I can help with that. And if it wasn't for that good and decent Trinbagonians, again, Trinidad would have been in trouble. Government did a piss poor job, and we have to remember that and we have to hold them to that. But going forward from here, we can't continue business as usual like this is business as usual, because it's not. Our new normal has to be a better country. Listen to the people that come on these shows. Listen to them and understand that they are good people who have ideas and heart and vision, who put together could give us, for the first time, a proper organization, a proper government that could make it possible for every Trinbagonian to maximize their full potential. Here, every creed and race finds an equal place? I don't think so, but it could be. If you want that, vote PEP. So, the weekend starts tonight, so all of you who are going to rave, turn on Netflix and dance in your living room. We're still locked down, and we're still social distancing, and we're still fighting coronavirus, and so for a while that is still the law, let's observe it and respect it. Until Monday next week. This week, we had a bumper show, a bunch of shows, and I want to thank Vernon De Lima and Gavin Hiran, Kriyan Singh, and Paul, and Dano, and Tony, and I want to thank everybody who was with us this entire week for these shows. I want to also touch on next week's show. Next week's shows, we have really good guests. We have Prakash Ramadhan who's coming in on Monday, and we're going to be talking a lot about the congressmen people and the third force and what happened along the way. Prakash is still, regardless of what you might think of Prakash, I mean, I've known him for a long time, and if there's one thing I could say, he is a good and decent man, and that I think should be the most important criteria after being a critical thinker that you should have decency, because we voted too many criminals into office. We have a former UNC minister and member of parliament on Tuesday. We are negotiating with a senior former police officer for Wednesday. That is almost confirmed. We have a former senator and attorney at law on Thursday. Friday, we bring in Devon Maraj, Robert Amar, and a couple other people for another panel show like this. Anthony Defoe may join us again on Friday. And we're going to talk about the business side of restarting Trinidad and Tobago. So again, I want to thank all who have been part of the Plain Talk experience and all who have come and put themselves on the line. Yesterday, we had a former PNM MP and Minister, Peter Taylor, who was very frank about his experience, and I want to thank him specifically for having the courage to step out and speak in what could be a hostile talk show environment. We strive to not be confrontational bacchanalists. We strive to bring information to the fore. That don't mean we're going to let you slide if you're talking nonsense. But generally, people come on the show, they come to make a contribution towards a better Trinidad and Tobago. So, until Monday, stay safe, Trinidad and Tobago.